now. 13 says using standard form, write the equation of the line with the given slope through the given point. So we're eventually going to get it in standard form. Do you remember what standard form is? This guy, ax plus by equals c, right? So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to just come up with an equation. Now, again, you could start with slope-intercept form. I never really did that with you. I always started with point slope and then converted. So that's what I'm going to do right now. You have a point, an x1 and a y1, and you have a slope. So I'm going to put it into point slope form first. So y minus your y1, y minus 2 equals the slope times x minus your x1 value, which is a half. And then to put it into standard form, we have to get our x and y together and our constant by itself. So the first thing we're going to do is distribute here. Y minus 2 equals 6x minus 3. I'm going to move, remember, we don't really love having a negative out in front. And if I move my 6x to the left right now, I have negative 6x plus y. It's not technically wrong. It's just not the preferred. So I'm going to move this way, the y. So 6x minus y on the right equals, and then that means I need to move this negative 3 this way. So I'm going to add 3 on both sides, and we get 1. Now, if you like it to look more like standard form in order, you can just swap those. 6x minus y equals 1. And that will be your equation. Now, if you did it the other way, if you moved it the other way, you would have ended up with negative 6x plus y equals negative 1. It's not as good an answer. It's a fine answer. It works. I'm okay with it. But we prefer not to have all those negatives in there. So it's essentially like we multiplied by negative 1 to this to make it look like this, if you want to think of it that way. Other questions? I saw someone back here. Zoe.
Can we do number 12 in chapter 1?
Yes. Am I in chapter 1 now? This number 12. This is the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. So if we're going to solve for L, we want to isolate the L, right? So we're going to take the 2W away from both sides. So right now I have P minus 2W equals 2 times L. Okay. How do you get L by itself? You would divide by 2. Yeah, so your options for answers, I don't care if you leave it like this. P minus 2W over 2 equals L. That's fine. If you like to break it up into the 2 fractions, then you could say P over 2 minus, and now this is 2 over 2 times W, which is 1W. So you could write it like that, minus W equals L. That's fine also, or you could technically write it 1/2 times P minus W equals L. That would be fine too. But you have to isolate the L. You have to get L by itself, and then any of those are acceptable for me. You're welcome. Yeah, no. What page is it on? Page 2? This one here. Okay. Yes. So this one says solve the equation and then check for extraneous. Major, like not a wander the campus because you're bored with review though. Like go to the bathroom, come back. Yeah. Okay. It's finals week. They don't like people out. Final or prep week. Everyone gets a little antsy. Okay. So solve it. Check for extraneous. Remember absolute value. When we have this set up, whatever's inside of this absolute value, whatever's in here, could be the positive version of our answer or the negative version of our answer. So remember, whenever we isolate absolute value, which they've already done for us in this problem, you have to write it how many ways? 2 ways, okay? So you're going to write x plus 6 equals the positive 2x, but then you're also going to write x plus 6 equals the negative 2x. Do you remember that? Hopefully. So solve them both. If I take away x, I'm left with x equals 6. If I'm just going to add 2x on this one. So 3x equals, and move the 6 over to the other side, so subtract 6. So 3x equals negative 6, divide by 3, and you get x equals negative 2. Okay, so those are your two answers so far. But it says check for extraneous. How do you check for extraneous? You plug them in. So we're going to plug in a 6. So absolute value of 6 plus 6 equals 2 times 6. And we're going to plug in a negative 2. Absolute value of negative 2 plus 6 equals 2 times negative 2. Now, right off the bat here, you can see the absolute value of something equaling a negative can't happen, right? So really, you don't even have to plug that in completely. Like, you don't have to finish solving that because you can see an absolute value equaling a negative. That means this negative 2 is going to be extraneous. Okay. This one, absolute value of 12 is 12. 2 times 6 is 12. That one checks out. So 6 is your answer. Negative 2 is extraneous. Okay. Other questions? Yeah, Matthew.
Number 11 in chapter 1.
Number 11. Okay, so this one we're solving for R2. The first thing I would do here, you have a couple options, okay? You could distribute the 1/2. It's a pain in the butt. I wouldn't. Because if you do, then you're messing with fractions in multiple places, and then it gets real confusing, like, what should I do to get rid of this fraction, but I have it over here and I don't have it over here. Instead, what I would do if I were you is I would multiply both sides of the equation by 2. So that 2 times 1/2 is 1, so that is going to just go away for us. And now you have 2r on the left, and then r sub 1 plus r sub 2 on the right. You don't even need your parentheses anymore because we got rid of the number out in front of it. And if we're solving for R2, then you just need to subtract R1. So it's 2r minus r sub 1 equals r sub 2, and that will be your final answer for that one. Any other questions from chapter 1 or chapter 2, or the start of chapter 2? Yeah, Nathan. The 10 right before this one? Yes. So it says solve each equation for x, state any restrictions on the variable. Do you remember where restrictions came into play? Restrictions were just if you had something in a denominator, your denominator can't equal what? 0. It can be a negative, right? Because you could divide by a negative, but you can never divide by 0, okay? So if you're dividing by 0, that's where you have to state restrictions. Whatever makes it a 0 is your restriction. If there's nothing to divide by, there are no restrictions. So like these ones, there are no restrictions. I didn't put restrictions on the second one, but I guess technically, well, no, because there's multiple variables. Yeah, so we wouldn't. If it ended up like x plus 2 over x minus 7, for instance, what's your restriction? X cannot be, what would make that a 0 to divide by? Can't be 7, right? So if you have a division problem, like the division bar, your x value cannot make this whole thing a 0, right? So x couldn't be 7. Okay, but that wasn't part of it. This one says solve for x. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. So I get x minus 3 divided by 6 equals a minus 3. Okay, now we're trying to get x by itself. What's your next step? Are you going to add 3 or multiply by 6? You're going to multiply by 6. You got to get that division bar out of there first. Essentially, that's, well, yeah, we want to get rid of the denominator. So multiply by 6. Now, when you multiply this side by 6, it is not 6a minus 3, right? It's 6a minus 18. You have to distribute that to both parts. So x minus 3 equals 6a minus 18. And then you're just going to add the 3. So x equals 6a minus 15. And that isolates the x. So that's your final answer. Okay? Jada, you need to hang out with me on this. This is what you were saying you didn't understand how to do. And you're over there somewhere. Be with me. Yes. Yes. So this one you're solving for x. Now you're saying t times x minus u times x, right? If you think about that, you can factor an x out of both of those things, right? So if we factor an x out, we're left with t minus u equals 3t. And that's what we have to be able to do to isolate the x, right? We want to get the x by itself. So now we did. Now to get x by itself completely, all we have to do is divide by that t minus u. So that's 1, but you got to do it on both sides, t minus u. So x is 3t divided by t minus u, okay? And again, stating restrictions, basically you would just have to say your restriction here is t can't equal u, because if t equals u and you subtract them, you get a 0. So that would be the best way to state a restriction for that one. Typically, it's not going to look like that. It'll be like x can't be this number is your restrictions. What else? Are you done? Okay. Can I just encourage you? Because I know who in here tends to struggle on things. And I feel like the people who get A pluses on things ask all the questions. The people who are struggling don't ask me any questions. Let that be a sign to you. They're paying attention and asking questions, which is something you should all be doing. I saw a lot of glazed over La La Land from a lot of people in here just now. And I know it's not exciting, but it's review. You have to go over it again. We have to get it. Who had their hand up over here? Yeah, Nathan. 7. Yeah. Okay, number 7. This number 7?
Which one?
7. That one? Fancy, huh? Okay, so we have, oh wait, is that the one you were thinking? Because there's another 7 from the multiple choice.
Chapter 1.
Okay, yeah, this one. So this one says, what is the solution? Now, there's a lot going on here, and all those parentheses and brackets can get a little bit fancy. This is saying x minus this whole thing, right? So it's x minus 3, and then minus a negative 2x is actually plus 2x, okay? And then we still have this 4 out in front. So if we simplify that, x plus 2x is 3x. So this is 4 times 3x minus 3 plus 5 back here equals, and then I would just distribute this right off the bat, 3x plus 33. And then just keep simplifying. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute this. That would be 12x minus 12 plus 5 equals 3x plus 33. If I take away the 3x, I get 9x over here. All right. Negative 12 plus 5 is a negative 7 equals 33. And now add that 7. So you get 9x equals 40. And then divide by 9. So x equals exactly that, 40 over 9. Anything else? Yeah. The same number 8, same page. So this one says which number is not a solution. So what you want to do is just simplify it as best you can and then see what doesn't fit in the final answer. So you have options. You could distribute right here, or you could divide everything by 3 right here. What would you do? They're both right. You would distribute. I feel like most people distribute on these. So you have negative 27 is less than or equal to 3 minus 6x, which is less than or equal to 3, okay? Remember when they were compound solutions like this, you had to do it to everything. So there's take away a 3 here, but that means you have to take away a 3 here and take away a 3 here, right? There's like 3 separate things going on here. So if we do that, negative 27 minus 3 is a negative 30, which is less than or equal to a negative 6x, which is less than or equal to 0. Okay. What do you do next? Divide by what? Negative 6. What happens when you divide by negative 6 with inequalities? They flip. Good. So divide by negative 6, divide by negative 6, divide by negative 6. So what's happening is we get a positive 5 is greater than or equal to x, which is greater than or equal to 0. So it's basically saying 0 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 5, right? Is our solution. Meaning x has to be between 0 and 5, including 0 and 5, right? That's what the equal to bar is saying. So if you look at your options here, which of these 4 does not meet that qualification? A negative 1. Yep. What else? Yeah, Zoe.
So for the test, will we be allowed to bring scratch paper, or
I think what I'll do is I'll give the proctor blank pieces of paper, just because I don't want the proctor to have to walk around and make sure that people's pieces of paper are actually blank, you know, like people wrote things down. I'll make a note. I'll put scratch paper in there for anybody that wants scratch paper. But yeah, you won't be able to bring your own scratch paper, so.
And also, do we have to memorize the formulas, like the different standards,
Yeah, you'll have to know the formulas.
Okay, thank you.
Scratch paper. Okay, any other questions? The end.